Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. We're in Parshas Vayigash, fascinating parsha. All the people, children are very proud of that. Of Yehuda taking his position and ready to fight. It's moment like a very good dream of every child. Okay, but let's see what's happening here, really. As we said in Hasidic lands. So first thing is that let's start simple idea. Yehuda is after Yosef wants to take away Binyamin. So Yehuda says, we're going to kill or to get killed. Vayigash Yehuda says, well, there and tefillah milchama. He went, he said, I'm willing to be good with you. All could be the slave instead of him. But he was ready to fight. If you're not going to give in, we'll destroy Mitzrayim or we'll get killed. Either one, but we are ready for that. The Midrashim are beautiful stories about what they were doing, even trying to show their strength. So, okay, but the bottom line is that Yehuda was going now to war with the king of Mitzrayim, was the superpower of that time in the world. And him and his two helpers, I don't know what exactly they were officially represented to Yehuda, probably as helpers, had also a very strong. So Yehuda says, okay, either you give us Binyamin, I'm willing to stay as slave instead of him. If not, we are going to war, and either we'll get killed or they will destroy Egypt. And they send Naphtali to check out how many main sections are in Mitzrayim, or main streets, Shukim, it says, marketplaces. I think it was 10 or 12. So he said, everyone will take one, he'll take 3, and will destroy the place. And Yosef knew that he has to act in a way fast before they get out of control. But our point is more from the position of Yehuda. He wants to save Binyamin, but now he's taking a chance of getting killed. Not only himself, all the 11 brothers who were there could get killed. It's a very powerful country, Egypt. And he went for it. He said, either all or nothing. Either we'll get killed or we'll destroy you and we'll take Binyamin and we will go. So what is the logic of that? You're going to sacrifice. You wanted that Yaakov shouldn't have painful, right? Won't be able to suffer from losing Binyamin, right? But losing everybody is for sure not an option. Furthermore, you could say the logic is, if they have no choice, leave Binyamin there. You guys are 11 people. You're 10 people. So you'll find a solution how to take him out soon, a little bit later. But going to war is going to finish off the whole thing. If you're going to get killed, then it'll be worse for Yaakov. So what was his logic, if you ask that question? Yaakov, Yehuda was a clever person to go into either kill, destroy Egypt, or get killed. But when we talk about it, interesting, today is we're coming right after Hanukkah, or the recording is in Zeis Hanukkah, because I will be on a plane, won't be able to record it later. So the Maccabim, right, they also took the same approach. The Greeks were power, right, a superpower country. The Maccabim were a few brothers, one family, the father. And then another few Bachrim, Yeshiva Bachrim joined them who were not military trained as far as we know. And they're declaring war with the Maccabim. What are you going to gain? You want to save the Jewish people, very good, but declaring war, and we saw many times in history when the times of Beis when the Jewish people rebelled, we lost. The Chachami wanted to make, for example, make peace with the Romans and some of the Jewish people didn't want, and they burned the food. And then the stories came out from that. So what was the Maccabim's cheshbon? And according to some Meforshim also said that the Maccabim as the Rabban said, don't do that. You can't a few Yeshiva Bachrim take on a superpower, like take on Russia or America, like what's the logic of that? What did they think? What's going to happen here? And if you want, let's take this idea, to extend the idea a little bit more. But they had already a history of that. When they kidnapped Dinah, so but they didn't declare war. They did already seichel. They told them to circumcise. And then the two brothers, Shimon and Levi, went out and they killed the whole city, all the men, the adults, men adults. So what was the logic also in that? I mean, yes, they had a breeze, but means you talking about at least a few thousand people. A few thousand people takes time to kill them, and they could still, some of them, they have a military, obviously. What was the cheshbon? So basically what I'm doing, I'm just showing you that in history we have stories where we went something that seemed completely illogical, and not only illogical, completely taking a risk of losing everything. And thank God we had a miracle. But we had many times that we did that, what we call it a stupid move. If it wouldn't be successful, call it a stupid move. Like we said by in Yerushalayim when they declared war against the Romans. So what was the cheshbon? But now the story takes it a little bit further in history. Go. It says by the 10 Harugi Malchus, the 10 Tanoim, what we read on Yom Kippur, who were killed. Like Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Akiva was metal combs, he combed off his skin, and they killed him. So some say that that's because, actually the king told them, because of you Shvatim, the 10 brothers who sold Yosef, so that's you have to, what is deserve? They deserve death penalty. They passed them themselves. They say, okay, so now they are not here, so I cannot punish them, so I'll punish you. So what is the cheshbon that the Tanoim, approximately 1,500 years later from the story about Yosef and the brothers, that they have to get killed, who are tzaddikim gemurim. Rabbi Akiva could be the Matan Torah could have been to him. That they have to get killed because of because the brothers sold Yosef. Especially that the story was finished over there. Yosef punished them, he tortured them, right? He accused them, so they really suffered, and they really did tshuva. So why 1,500 years later, we have to start reminding the story again, and these new 10 Tanoim have to suffer for them. Even if we'll say that they are Gilgul, but still they did tshuva. Tshuva helps. And not only did they tshuva, they were punished also already. And they were willing to, and the tshuva was in a point that they were willing to go Mesiras Nefesh for Binyamin. So what was the reason why we had to happen to the Tanoim, that the Asoro, Harugi, Malchus, the 10 Tanoim who were killed because of that? Okay, that's one section, one part of the question. Now let's go further. When Yosef reveals himself to them, see what he tells them. They were completely embarrassed. They completely didn't know what to do with themselves. I mean, like now they're standing. Now they were not afraid he's going to kill them, maybe, or that maybe they were afraid. We don't know for sure, but they were afraid he will take revenge on them or suffer. It looked like he's taking revenge on them because he really tortured them. So he says them, don't. The pasuk says, "Lom." So the alte otzvu, don't be sad about it. Don't be sad on what? That you sold me, right? And don't blame each other. Why? Because the Rebbe shall send me to survive, to save you and the whole world. Because the known world at that time was under the superpower of Egypt. And Yosef, by resolving the Pesach Cholam of Pare, and then he collected food enough for the whole world for 7 years. So the argument is don't feel bad, because really what came out is the unbelievable survival of the whole world, instead of having like the Teva, the Ark of Noach to save the world with one family. He really literally saved millions of people. So therefore they shouldn't feel bad. But what kind of explanation is that? The concept, the idea is everything Hashem does is for the good. Called the Ovid Rahman al-Tabavid, the story of Rabbi Akiva, famous story of Rabbi Akiva, that when his donkey died and his chicken died and his candle put out, said it was for good, and that it would save them from a worse catastrophe. And even furthermore, Nochem Ish Gamzu, that he said that's also for good, that not only he was saved them from a bigger problem, but actually he had this special miracle sand that had a better effect than he would bring the diamonds to the king. But that doesn't mean because of that the people who stole the stones got rewarded because they shouldn't feel bad or shouldn't be punished because look what came out from what we stole your stones, so we put in sand over there. No. The principle is everything Hashem is controlling. So of course everything comes from Hashem. But when the one who's doing the bad thing, if he's a surgeon and amputating a finger has a shown of a person that's necessary, you pay him. But if a robber attacks the person and chops off his finger because in the fight, and with that he accomplished this similar, almost the same thing, that the chopped off the finger needed to be amputated, you don't pay this robber. Why? Because fakert, you put him in jail. So he'll come in court and say, you fakert, you have to give me reward. If you have to pay me, if a doctor would cost you much more, I'll give it to you for half price. So I'm saying the idea that everything that something came out from it doesn't justify the brothers of Yesod that they shouldn't feel bad about it. What is his argument that they shouldn't feel bad about it? The fact that came out something good from it. So the Rabbi made this should come out something good, but as we said last week, that they shouldn't have been them to do it. If the Rabbi wants the Yesod in Mitzrayim, find another way. The Rabbi is very creative. He'll find a way. There's a job that a woman was davening that her son should be rich. So every day in davening, she was asking her, please make my son rich. But every day she was thinking about different plans how Hashem could make her son rich. So she was giving the Eibush not only ask him to make it, but she was giving him ideas how to make her son rich. After a few years, she was davening every day. Finally, the Eibush helped, and the son became rich. But when she said, she was amazing that she gave already, but to the Rabbi like a few thousand ideas how to make him rich. The Rabbi used a different idea, none of the thousands ideas that she gave him how to do it. So the Rabbi doesn't need our ideas, and he doesn't need us to do it when we're doing it. If a person does something from a bad choice, yes, always says, the Gemara says, Allah nilke, if I have a patch, somebody smacked me. So we say, Allah nilke nigza milamaila. The guy who had the patch, he was supposed to get the patch. But the guy who gave the patch, the question why he gave it. If he's a teacher and he felt that he has to do it for educational reasons, then you pay him for that. But if he wanted to hurt me, so then he is not justified. He gets punished, right? Because he did something that he shouldn't be doing. So he's saying the fact that something good came out of it is not a good excuse why the person doesn't have to do tshuva, feel bad about it. Okay. We see in Pasuk, that's just interesting. It says that a person should build a maike, a fence around this roof, if it's a flat roof, or around the pool, anything that somebody could fall over the Chad Shalom and get hurt or get killed. So you have to do everything to protect it. Shouldn't happen. So the Pasuk says, Ki yipel hanefel, because if not, the faller could fall. So the Mepharshim, what did the faller will fall? A person will fall. What's means fall? So Rashi, I think, remember, say it. The person that falls, he had to fall. That's Xer Milamayla. But you shouldn't be the place and the cause on this or the circumstances that made him fall. Because the principle is that the Rebbe, when he wants to do something good, he sends a good person to do good things, right? And when he wants to do something bad, he sends a bad person. So, if a person said his prior chofsh didn't do it for a good reason, did it for a bad reason, then it's not justifiable. So, what is the Yisrael telling don't feel bad because the outcome is good. The outcome is good. There's nothing to do with them. It's the Eibishter completely. Let's go a step further. I think we'll start to go now to answers. We leave enough questions. So let's see the idea. What we see from here, the Rabbi is saying a very interesting thing. We learn out from here that parents or Rabbanim have to do everything possible to save the life of one child, physically or spiritually, for his education, even to go with Mesiras Nefesh. Even so, not only to do whatever you could do, you have to go with Mesiras Nefesh. Start with a little story that there was a Jew from Borough Park. He was a Hasidic Jew. Wasn't a Lubavitcher, but he was a Hasidic Jew. And he wanted to talk to the Rabbi, as the Rabbi going to Yechides, to go to a private audience with the Rabbi, to ask the Rabbi something, advice, an eitzah, a bracha. So the secretary told him that the Rabbi doesn't take any more Yechides. If you want something, it's a very simple way how to do it. You write a note, you come into the office, you give it to the office, we give it to the Rabbi. If the Rabbi decides to answer, he will answer you and we'll give you the answer. But we don't, the idea of private audience is finished. So he said, no, I have to speak to the Rabbi. So no, there's no way, we can't do. There's thousands, tens of thousands of people, and we cannot do it anymore. And therefore, we did, the Rabbi decided, and we said, there's no such thing as no more Yechides. So he asked the Bochim, is there any way he could go around any advice how he could speak to the Rabbi? So one Bochim told him, I'll tell you how. Go to the Rabbi's house when he, the time when he, more or less when he leaves the house to come to 770, when he goes back from President's to the house. So one of them you could be there, you should have to wait maybe a half an hour extra an hour because it's not exactly in the minute when the Rabbi is going. And then you walk over to the Rabbi, nobody is there, only the driver, and you'll be able to speak to the Rabbi. Okay, so you went there to the Rabbi's house on President Street, and the Rabbi comes out or came from 770 went there. He walked over and started speaking to the Rabbi. There was a few bochim there. He kept the Rabbi for a few minutes, I don't know, 3 minutes or 5 minutes, whatever it was. And the Rabbi answered them everything. He was happy. So he walked away. So the bochim attacked him. Chutzpah, what you're doing, not allowed to do that. People will do it. It will be impossible for the Rabbi to go into their house. Kids, they attacked him and they really made him feel guilty. He was happy they got the right answer, but he felt guilty that everybody telling him that he's doing the wrong thing. So he didn't want to do the wrong thing. So he wrote to the Rabbi a letter that after he spoke to the Rabbi, the Bochim attacked him and told him that he did the wrong thing and it's unacceptable. And so he feels very bad. And he's apologizing. He didn't realize it's a terrible thing that he did. So the Rabbi answered them an interesting answer. The Rabbi answered them, how do they know that if my neshama didn't come down to this world only to do you this favor? In other words, the Baal Shem Tov, it's a famous saying, the Baal Shem Tov, the neshama comes down to this world for 70, 80 years to do a favor to another Jew. How do they know? So in other words, the Rebbe dismissed it. Doesn't mean that the next day we let everybody go over there. If some people would coming there, we'd have to put over there either one of the secretaries or a few bachim to not let it happen because that became impossible. Our company, what the Rebbe is saying is that even him, that is taking care of so many things, so it's very possible that my neshama came down. The main reason it came down to the world is to take care of that person, to have one favor to another. Again, going to the Baal Shem Tov, and neshama comes down to this world for 70, 80 years to do a favor for another Jew. One time was an interesting thing. A guy tells me he doesn't want to do a favor to another Jew. He says, why not? Because maybe my neshama came down to do that favor. If I'll do the favor, I'll die. I said, don't worry, don't die after you finish. You do good things before and after. And after you do the purpose of your shlichus, you could do even better things and bigger things. But it doesn't mean that you have to die after you do that. So let's think about it about that word. That a person, the neshama comes down for 70, 80 years to do a favor for one. The main reason to do a favor to one person could be even a small thing. How could it be? And it doesn't mean that a simple person, could be even a great person, a great tzaddik, as the Rebbe said even about himself. So the whole purpose, he came down and said, how could this person that he did a favor is a simple, not talking this story, but in general, could be that his neshama came down to do a simple person, a simple good idea. So he's saying that this whole life of this whole person came down to do a favor for another. What is the logic in that you bring down such a big neshama? If you need a pshat in a Rambam that nobody else could mechadesh, okay? So the neshama came down to mechadesh in Torah. But sometimes it could be that this neshama has to do this favor to that many other people could have done it. So what is the idea in that? Why is it necessary, the idea what the Baal Shem Tov is telling us to know that you could be in a Shem to do a favor, one time a favor to one Jew for 70, 80 years? Why should it be that? Why is this system that created that way? What does it mean? Because it doesn't make sense. In simple sense, it doesn't make sense. Now, so where it's taking us a little bit, starting to understand the answer of the question, is that's why you could say that Yehuda had Mesiras Nefesh for Binyamin, because, as we said, maybe he learned the Kesser Shem Tov, the Baal Shem Tov, they learned Torah, they were obvious, right? So maybe they knew that could be your whole neshama came down to do a favor to another Jew. So that's giving a little bit. We see here something that, and as the Rabbi said clearly, that the lesson from Yehuda is that you have to have Mesiras Nefesh to save one child. Not to say, I'll do what I can, but with limits. No, there's no limitation. But now let's take another saying from the Gemara. What I'm saying, that seems like the whole idea of the Parsha. Even again, I'm not claiming to be able to have the time to answer all the questions, but this idea of Yehuda, what he took that Mesiras Nefesh, it says, the Gemara says, Chayav Adam Leimer b'shvil nivra olam. A person is obligated to say, and means to say it honestly and believe so, that the whole world is created for him. The whole world, there's 7 billion people with 30 billion galaxies. Each galaxy has 30 billion stars. Everything is created for me. What do you need it for? The Torah is preaching us and teaching us that humility is the biggest thing possible. My dust, soul is like dust and ashes. Avraham says, I'm dust and ashes. Humility is the biggest thing, and the source of all trouble is from arrogance. The only thing that Hashem said, if somebody is arrogant, but impurity, the Rabbi said, I could dwell with you in purity. But in ego, arrogant, that pushes the Rabbi says, I and him cannot. And here we're telling a person that you should know chayav adam. A person is obligated to say, and Torah says to say means to say that you honestly to believe it. Why should you believe it? Because that's the truth, not only to give you a good self-esteem. So we're telling you that. That is the real truth, that the whole world is created for you. And I remember one time by Fabrengen, I don't remember exactly when it was, as the Rabbi explained that saying, what means not only the world today with the 7 billion people around the world with everything that we have today, but the beginning from creation of the world, all the Mauritian was created for you. Chet Eitzadas, the sin of the tree of knowledge, for you. The flood, Neach, saving the flood, for you. Avraham, Yitzchak, V'Yankiv is for you. The Jews went to Mitzrayim for you. They came out from Mitzrayim for you. Matan Torah is for you. And the Rebbe went to like the main things in history. Everything is for you. That's what you're obligated to say. And all the spiritual world are for you also. Who needs it? Why do you have to be? If only a little part of the world is for the person, that should be enough for him. What I need, that everything was created for him. If I remember correctly, the Field Rebbe said to explain it logically, and every person, every Jew is obligated to say that. Chayav adam leimer, every person. And Alter Rebbe brings it down in Tanya Perek Memalev. What is the purpose of that? Why do we need to have such a kind of idea that it doesn't carry water? I mean, you can't say the whole world is created for Yankel, cannot be the whole world is created for Shimon. And you say that he's obligated, not only you could believe it if you want, even it helps you to feel better. So you're allowed to think that way. And it says obligation to think that way because that's the absolute truth and you need it. Because otherwise, if you wouldn't need it, Rebbe wouldn't give you something that's not necessary. So basically, the explanation is a little bit. I'm telling you, they're not going to explain. As I said, the Rebbe, Friedrich Rebbe said, cannot explain how is it possible that the whole world is created for every person. That because you are, every Jew is part of the Eibishter, a real part, actually mamish, a real part of the essence of the Eibishter. So if you are the essence of the Eibishter, then it's like you have the whole thing. Then everything is for the Eibishter. In other words, the reason why the whole world is created for you, not because you ego, because there's nothing else in you, only that what you're part of the Eibishter. And therefore, the whole world is created for you. That means that you, if remember, what I explained, the Rabbi is explaining a little bit, or explaining a lot, I understood a little bit, that because the essence of the Eibishter is in you, therefore, there is something, an absolute essence of the Eibishter manifests in you, that's everything, the whole of history and the whole spiritual worlds are leading that you should be able to express that aspect of the essence of the Eibishter. From another person's point of view, everything is leading in preparation for that, that he should be able to express the essence of the Eibishter in a special way in his idea. So therefore, once we understand that little bit, when we, at least if we don't understand it, but that's what we're saying, that the whole world that you expressing, and not only a part of the purpose of the world, but some saying is, you are like a finger in the body, so you're also very important. No, that I think that's saying it much closer. That everything was created for you, that everything is designed in such a way to prepare everything that I should be able to express the essence of the Eibishter in a way that nothing else could do it. If you disagree with me, no problem. But could be that's the reason why we're saying that the Neshama comes down for 70, 80 years to help another Jew. In other words, that's the favor you're doing to another Jew. The other Jew could be the most simplest person, most ignoramus person, but he also has an idea that the whole essence of the Eibishter and the essence of the whole purpose of creation is expressed only to him. So you, Neshama, could come down to help him in a certain idea that helps him to come to express what he's expressing, the purpose of the whole creation. So now if you become a partner also in his idea, from your point of view, the whole world is created for you. But from his idea, you're helping him to express, to bring out the idea of what this whole world is created for him. Then it could start making sense why Neshama could come for 70, 80 years to be help in expressing the essence of the Eibishter that nobody else could do it. None of the biggest tzaddikim in the whole of history. And everybody needs to come him. A little bit, I think it also comes out, or there may be a lot that comes out in what the Rabbi quotes for thousands of times, probably. The Rambam, as a person has to look on the world that's equal, and he's equal. And therefore, with one action, with one good deed, with one good speech, with one good machshava, thought, he could bring this till the whole world to scale to positively. That will become the whole world, become that salvation for the whole world, that Mashiach will come. And that's the approach that you have to every mitzvah that you're doing. And that explains here the idea. And before we explain the idea why you should put your life in danger to save another child, another Jew. But here's an explanation why you're doing with every mitzvah you're doing, with your whole essence you're doing it. Because every mitzvah expresses the whole essence of the Eibishter. Not only in the general, everything together, like creating accumulation of everything. No, in every mitzvah that's done. So what do you have to go out from this Parsha Vayigash, that Yehuda put in danger the whole Shvatim for Binyamin, to see how the importance of one Jewish child is. That we approach us to be that this is the whole world is created for him. So when you approach him, you have to see that here you're going to help somebody, that the whole world is created from beginning of history and from all the spiritual worlds. Atzilas, Bria, Yitzira, Asi, and higher than Atzilas, Kesselman, Ak, and Atik, and Arich, and Lifnei Atzimtzum, everything that came out, everything is for that person. and you could help him in fulfilling his purpose. And therefore, maybe that explains why the challenges are so big. Because the power that's standing behind us, that the whole world is created for us, and we are in order to reveal the maximum power and connection to the Eibishter and the essence of the Eibishter, the challenges have to be very big to reveal that depth, because otherwise you're functioning on an external level. You're not giving out your absolute essence. Now, just maybe in 1 minute, just decide to give a thought on the idea, why did the Tanoim have to suffer later? Because it says that you have to do tshuva your whole life. With the brothers of Yosef was accomplished, they did tshuva and they were cleansed as much as possible. But the idea to go much further, and there's a part that couldn't be done at that time of before Matan Torah. It had to be after Matan Torah, after the Torah Shebal Peh, the oral law. And that take the idea of to reveal the depth of the Jew through that idea of their suffering, if you want to call it, or their passing away, the Mesiras Nefesh, they're dying for that. So L'chaim should have, as the base that the Rabbi said, we have accomplished everything, and now this is ready. If Mashiach is ready to come, it should be the revelation of Melech HaMashiach now in a physical sense. It will be today in Yerushalayim, in the Beis Hamikdash, and the Rabbi say in Kodesh HaKodashim. I asked one of a few people who are working by the Sichos, where is the source that everybody is going to be in Kodesh HaKodashim? You know, even the Kohen Gadol was allowed only once a year. So it comes out that the Kohen Gadol, Aaron HaKohen was allowed to do when they come in with everyone, but with a certain process, with that preparation. But the Rabbi is saying that everybody will be in Kodesh HaKodashim. So there was, that time when I asked, I was told that there's no real source, it would be no source for that. But it says that in the Midbar, when the Jewish people were traveling with the Oren, so all the Jews fitted in between the carrying beams of the Oren, they fit it in there. So I mean, there's a word in Kodesh HaKodashim, and that's the closest they got to that. But maybe by now they found more sources, I don't know about it. But the main thing is the Rebbe said will be in Eretz Yisrael, in Yerushalayim Kodesh, in Har Bayis, Beis Hamikdash, Kodesh and Kodesh HaKodashim now mamish. L'chaim, Kol Tuv, and Shiach now.